Welcome to Cleve Style Magazine, where we bring creativity to life. I'm your host, Ciarra Nelson, here with Cynthia Lee Roberts. She is the owner and author of Restricted. This is a true and raw story that you just don't want to miss about love, redemption, faith, challenges, and much, much more about finding love in unconventional ways. And I just love your story. First of all, I want to mention that this will be in Cleve Style Magazine. We'll have the information for you later in the show, so you got to watch. But just want to talk to you about Restricted. Thank you, first of all, for being a guest today.
Thank you for having me.
This is a phenomenal story. If you're just looking at this book and looking at the cover and the back of the book, you were for 30 years, you were a deputy sheriff, and you found love with someone behind bars.
Yes, ma'am.
And you don't hear about that every day. And when you do hear about it, people always have things to say, and it's just like, ooh, love behind bars, you know. But you found your love.
Yes.
And it's here. Your love is actually here. He's in the studio. Oh, I know.
Yes.
So
yes.
Talk a little bit about Restricted and what brought you, just about the journey first. How did you meet him? You were a deputy sheriff.
Yes.
And what happened there?
Well, I had my share of not so good relationships in the past, and they turned out to be to my detriment because I consider myself a hopeless romantic and just a lover of love. So to my detriment, I kind of went head first. My father said, I think with my heart instead of my head. So those relationships didn't pan out. So I just said, you know, I'm going to take a hiatus. I'm just going to take my time, focus on me. I had a 5-year-old son at the time, so I was a single parent. I said, I'm just going to focus on me. I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was sort of not searching, but she was in the same place that I was. And she said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to write everything we want in a partner for that person. So we both
wrote it on paper.
Write it on paper.
Right.
So we wrote the criteria that we wanted, and it was the traditional tall, dark, and handsome, good job, you know, 6-figure salary, check, you know, a house with the picket fence and things like that sort. So we put all of that down. And she said, now let's put it in an envelope and just randomly put it in the Bible. And then at that point, just let it go. So I'd say about 3 years had transpired since then. And I was coming to work and, you know, just regular routine and things of that sort. And he was in the day areas, what they call where the inmates can make phone calls or talk with their attorneys and stuff like that. And Miss Ciarra, I don't know how to say it, but it was love at first sight.
Really?
He looked up at me and I looked at him. And I know that's sort of cliche or kind of corny, but I was just like, that's my person. But of course I was like, you know, this couldn't be true. So I kind of,
and you're like thinking, I'm at work, and
yes,
this could
you know,
be a conflict.
And I had been working 3 years prior to that, so no other person caught my attention like that. You know, I wasn't even thinking along those lines. And when I first seen him, and he seen me, it was just like this, oh, I know that's corny, but that's what happened, you know. And from then, he was there approximately like 2 months because he had came back and won his appeal. He was originally sentenced to 17 years.
Oh, wow.
And he did all his law work, and he ended up getting 11 years knocked off of his sentence.
Oh, wow.
So in those 2 months that he was in my facility, we sort of just got to get to know each other. But I never negated my police officer or law enforcement duties. You know, I always kept it separate, you know, my personal life versus my professional life. We always kept it separate.
So when you decided to get with him and make this official, you probably heard things from your family, friends, colleagues. What made you feel like, well, I need to go on? This is it for me. This is my person. You know, I can't go off what other people feel. What gave you the strength and the courage, and how did you go on to get to that part where you said, you know what, I'm going to be with him, I believe it, and this is it?
Well, during the course of those 2 months that we got to know each other, I just felt this sense of he was worth saving. He was worth saving. And just through our conversations and the interaction that we had, it was just sort of that discernment that I got. And the only people that really knew, I definitely kept it away from my colleagues. You know, there was that speculation and that rumor mill, you know, but nobody ever either confronted me or said anything. But the three people that I had shared it with was my mom and my two sisters. And
How did they feel?
That's what I'm going to tell you now. My sisters were totally off board. They thought I had lost the screw in my head, like something was wrong with me. But my mother, which is my best friend in the whole world, I didn't tell her anything, she was okay with it. She never brought up the fact that he was incarcerated. She said I even had like this kind of glow over me, you know, when I spoke about him. And she never dissuaded me or talked to me as far as not pursuing the relationship with him. And so my mother, with her spiritual background, just the type of person she is, she's definitely a woman of God. I decided that at that moment I was going to step out on faith and go forward with it.
That's true. And still a person, and God still loves them. So I understand how you felt. And when your mother's on board, you feel things are better. Well, listen to your mom when your mom's on board.
When your mother's on board, then okay, this must be. Because it's ironic. I had worked there 3 years, and when I met Ralph, all those 3 years I had tried to get her to come up to the facility, take a tour, because it was like daily tour, because it was a brand new facility. So I had to come and get her. I wanted her to come and visit, and me take her to. I was just so proud, you know. And she was like, nope. But that day I came home and I talked about the fact that I had met my husband. I didn't know it was my husband, but I had met Ralph. And she just said it was a glow over me. She hadn't seen me that happy in so long. And she came up to visit.
Oh,
and during the time that she was there, she came to visit him too. He did, unbeknownst to him. I had set up a visit, so because I really wanted to share that experience with her.
Yeah.
And she had came up there, and I set up a visit for him to meet her. And so that was sort of a big shock to him too, but they hit it off.
Was there a moment where you ever, you know how we'd say, oh, this is it, but then the doubt kicks in, you know, the doubt. Was there ever a moment where you just like, you know what, you got scared?
Yes, I would say, now, when Ralph came back, he won his appeal, and he got the time knocked off, but he had 6 more years to do. 6 more years to do after we met. So before he left my facility, I had to reckon with myself and say, am I up for this? Am I willing to wait 6 more years? And I toyed with the fact, well, I was by myself 3 years prior to that, so, 6 more years. But like I said, the discernment in me kept saying he was worth saving, and he was worth traveling down the 6-year journey with him. So I would say during that 6-year period, the visitation part, the traveling, because he was in 3 different facilities, only because his level kept lowering. So it was 3 that had traveled to back and forth. So it was a little discouraging. I would say
So you wrote the book
Yes.
and you journeyed the book. What do you want readers to take out of the book most without giving it away? What do you
Okay.
want someone, when they sit down and read your book at home, what do you want them to get out of it the most? How do you want them to feel when they're done reading your book?
Okay. Well, on my book, there's 3 subtitles. It's the romance part, it's the relapse part, and then it's the redemption.
Talk about each part of those. Just a little snippet of each without giving the book away.
Well, the romance part was those 6 years that he had left to do, and then it's ironic when you're an officer and you're on the other side of the equation and you're sitting in the visitation room and I could be a people person sometimes and I'm very analytical to my fault and, very observant and I would just be like, wow, I'm on the other side, of this table visiting someone that's incarcerated, So just the romance part of it was he would send me letters. I know it's little.
That sounds romantic.
Yeah,
Where did the letters go? Remember
yes,
the days of letters.
Yes, the days of letters. It was like the letters were so. After you come home for a long day at work, and you deal with all different types of personalities and stuff. Just to sit back and relax, and that was like a routine of mine that I developed. I would, at the end of the day, and I would unwind and I get in my bed and read the letters that he sent me. And then sometimes he would have cards made up for me. It was just the simple things that matter,
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't out here providing for me, or he wasn't that day-to-day person that took me out to eat or things of that sort.
But he satisfied your soul.
It satisfied my soul deeply, and with me being that hopeless romantic, I was just like, that's my person. That's my person. The relapse part, well, that was a journey within itself. Because after being incarcerated for 10 years, like I said, life continues on. The world is still evolving. Things are still going on. So when he got back out and got a little glimpse and a little taste of the world, which I was always accustomed to, it sort of overwhelmed him. Okay. And prior to meeting him, he had some vices that he had dealt with and some things that he had dealt with as far as addiction. Okay. So he's slipped back into that type of thing, and it was a journey within itself because I had never dealt with someone that had an addiction to that degree, an unlawful addiction at that, So it was a matter of me trying to develop in my mind, should I continue on? I waited 6 years. Yes. He's home, and now he's doing this, So I had to really do some soul searching and see if I wanted to proceed on, because never did I ever feel like this was something that I was stuck with. I never felt obligated as far as the relationship was concerned. It was always something that I free willingly wanted to do. So I felt like, with him being acclimated or getting back acclimated into the world, I should be there for him as well, to a degree. Because, like I said, it never negated my law enforcement responsibility. Protective service. Because I like to say I'm retired. I never got tired. Let's be clear. I'm retired. I never got tired. I don't want to
like, you know, if you go home and say that, most women to their families, families are, what, are you crazy? Especially if you work there.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know,
And I found that
prayed
in my
about it.
experience when working on units, 7 years of my career was working actually on the unit with the inmates. And I found out that when they're taken out of that worldly element and they're by themselves, they totally conform to being that person that maybe they were raised to be, or they become that person that they would want to be, that they always cherish. You know, out in the world, they had to prove something or meet a status quo. And when you strip all those layers away and you're in a setting where you're left to your own devices, they become a totally different person. And sometimes they just need somebody to believe in them, to take a chance. They can take that one chance on them and believe them.
And that was it. You
Yes.
have a heart of gold. I
Right.
love it. I love your story. Tell me one thing. I want you to show the book. Tell me one thing you want to say to your viewers out there, and then also where we can find you.
Okay. I would want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a good read. It's a true story, and I was so passionate about writing it. It has such a great and remarkable message about romance, relapse, and redemption, and I think that you will get something out of it. And I wouldn't want to give you advice as far as this book's concerned, but just the message that through all things, God prevails, and he will direct your path. All you have to do is trust in him. And you can go to www.authorcynthialee.com. Or you can come in my DMs, hook me up, I'll get you situated.
All right. Thank you so much for your story. I love it. Thank you for your honesty and everything. We love the story. So go out and pick the book up. It's amazing. You can also find more information in Cleve Style magazine. She's in there, restricted, so you can check that out too. You're watching Cleve Style Show, where creativity is brought to life. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thank you.